All right, welcome everybody. Excited to have you all here. Excited to talk about biking. So what we are going to cover in the next half hour, talk about biking and climate, the impacts of climate on the biking industry, how carbon fee and dividend can help support the industry, what we're launching in terms of our biking industry climate declaration, which we're excited about. I'm going to talk through the strategy in terms of how we're rolling it out and who we're talking to and what resources we have to help you in doing that, and to ask for your help in supporting this initiative and answer any questions that you may have. So I'm Randy Salem. I'm part of the steering committee of business climate leaders and a mountain biker myself. I went biking, my biggest bike trip was about a year ago in Ireland, which was fantastic. And very pleased to have with me much more accomplished cyclists, Bill Barron, who you may all know as the CCL's Mountain West Regional Coordinator, the Wild West, now the Mountain West, and the founder of the Outdoor Action Team. And as you can see, it looks like he took a little tumble on his bike here, but most recently, I'm sure he'll talk about that, came back from an expedition biking, spending a week biking around Utah. And our wonderkin, Luke Bartol, who's been a fantastic addition to CCL. He was a CCLer before, but then joined us to spearhead this initiative, turned an idea into an actual material happening. So Luke is a student at Bowdoin College. He's part of their Nordic team. And every time I see him, he's either heading off or coming back from a bike ride. So he is in Maine and working his way out west soon. So with that, I will turn it over to Luke.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you all for coming. Just want to start off with kind of showing the connection between the cycling industry and climate, and it's for sure a big one. To start off, the cycling industry is a huge thing in the U.S. There's almost 48 million cyclists in the U.S., a huge number, huge percentage of Americans, Their cycling industry is a $6 billion industry. But there's almost $81 billion spent on cycling annually. So it's huge impact on the economy of the US and kind of a huge industry there. And it's experiencing consistent growth year over year, kind of consistently through the last decade. And this has been even more accentuated by the pandemic, where we've seen, when everybody's stuck in lockdown, cycling is a great way to get out there and kind of get some good socially distanced exercise, keep yourself busy. And so there's been almost doublings of sales during pandemic months. It's something that's been sustained through the pandemic. So just adding to that consistent growth. And there's many emerging sectors in the cycling industry, from e-bikes to fat biking to kind of more recreational and tourism biking. And all in all, just a great growing industry with some real power and some real up and coming. But the connection with climate is real for the cycling industry. We've already been able to see it, where increased temps and extreme weather make it difficult to go out and get cycling. Those things and forest fires can destroy recreational facilities, can erode trail systems, can make your cycling experience much more difficult and less enjoyable. And it also impacts your ability to get a bike and your ability for cycling shops to kind of stay upkeep with the demands. Even if this industry is growing, disruptions to supply chain and other kind of climate adaptations make it more difficult to acquire bikes and to produce bikes and to get those bikes to the consumer, which makes it so bike shops, have less product to turn over and people have less bikes to use. Yeah, next slide if we could. And so the carbon fee and dividend is a very obvious choice for the biking industry and for this problem.
Hey, Luke, I think this is my slide, actually. Is that right?
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry.
No, don't worry. But you're doing great. So, I'll just jump in if that's okay. And that is that, the thing that we find, and as you know, is in CCL, the discussion is how important a carbon price needs to be as part of the climate package. And really, I'm a passionate cyclist. I have to clarify, Randy, I hadn't fallen in that photo. It was actually, I was sitting there eating food, and my buddy I was riding with was laughing at me because I didn't even pull off the road because there's no cars in this bike tour. And, I was just laying in the road. So anyway, just had to clarify that. But the thing about cycling that I see it as is there's a message that we can use in talking about getting support in the cycling community, in that it is really similar in ways to what we're advocating for, carbon fee and dividend, in that I think one of the strong things that we can message is that it is a practical solution. It's a way to, really avoid, it's very direct and transparent. So it's a really clean way to address the problem. And as we all know, it's bipartisan, and really cyclists are bipartisan too. People who like cycling are from all political stripes. And so there's this important opportunity to really use this solution as a way to bring people together. And I think that the cycling community can do that. We also know that cycling is an efficient way of transportation, and also carbon fee and dividend is efficient. And the reason why I took this angle in describing this is because I know that all of you are CCL volunteers, so you are familiar with the Energy Innovation Act and how it covers all these specific things. And so what I'm trying to suggest here is that there's really some valuable messaging that we could use that's simple when communicating the value of carbon fee and dividend, the Energy Innovation Act, as you work to get endorsements for the Energy Innovation Act through the cycling community. And so the thing to keep in mind, I think, is that this is an economy-wide solution. So it's not specifically hurting the cycling industry by pricing carbon emissions. It's really a small part of their costs. More of the cost in the cycling community is in the service aspect of it all. And so I think knowing that they're not being adversely affected by a carbon price is also something that might be of value to them. And I think it's really important to suggest and remind folks about the urgency there is to addressing climate, and that carbon fee and dividend, the Energy Innovation Act, is something that it matches the scale of the problem. And so I think that it's really important to think about how we can use the power of cyclists to have their voice being heard. And we'll talk about this later in the presentation, but as part of the Outdoor Industry Action Team, we've worked a lot in the ski industry and have had great success building leverage and building support for businesses and organizations, trade organizations, to get behind endorsing the Energy Innovation Act. And I think that, as people who are passionate about being out in the outdoors and enjoying what we love, which is cycling, that that we ought to look at it as, here's an opportunity for us to invite people to join us and make our voices heard, and that cyclists are a part and can be a part of influencing the conversation around climate. I'm really, really excited about how the declaration creates this way for the cycling community to weigh in on climate action. And really, as we all know, we're trying to get support from all aspects of the economy, the communities, to build support and to build that political will. So I think that carbon fee and dividend is really good, and it's a great pairing to what cycling does for all of us. And so that's it. Next slide.
Say, Bill, if I could jump in real quick. I love this framing, by the way. And you could even possibly, just throw it out there for consideration, weave in the dividend. For some folks, they might be like, how do I afford that bike? Well, save up your monthly dividend check for a few months and go get a starter bike.
Good point. That's awesome. Thanks, Carl.
Luke?
Awesome. So yeah, we created the Biking Industry Climate Declaration kind of based on a lot of what Bill just said. and crafted this, and so highlighting, you know, the relevancy of the issue, and also the impacts of the cycling industry. So it shows the urgency of the problem. It acknowledges the impact climate change on uniquely on biking, but also, as I'm sure you're all aware, on humans in general and our all well-being. And it promotes the use of a fee and dividend structure, which is something that uniquely incentivizes cycling, and also, as Carl mentioned, you know, gives you extra income that you can put towards biking or other things like that. And so highlights these unique benefits to the cycling industry and emphasizes how it's bipartisan and kind of helps shops. Yeah, we can see it right here. Perfect. Yeah. So this is a great place to start. If you're introducing someone, the shop, to this, or, you know, just to educate yourself. So yeah, going on with that, the strategy of it all, how to engage the cycling industry with all this information you now have. So there's kind of a wide variety of targets you can go with this. There's, you know, obviously a big divide. You've got road bikers, you've got mountain bikers, you've got kind of everything sort of in between, from the casual cyclist to the, you know, people just doing it downhill. And so in this way, you can leverage a lot of different people. You can, the obvious ones, you know, bike shops, you know, they're in every community, it seems like. That's a great way to start, some easy picking there. There's lots of associations. Many states have their own bicycle associations. You can find more local groups or riding groups or other sort of organizations that way. There's lots of events, whether it be a race, group rides, memorial rides, that sort of thing, or another great target to have. And then you can go bigger to kind of trade groups, to some of our US-based bike manufacturers. And then talking to representatives. There's a bike caucus in Congress, which is a great place to start. Admittedly, not one of the most active ones out there, but some people who are really passionate about biking and really embracing the bipartisan nature of biking. Yeah, next slide if we could. How to contact them. I'm sure this is something you're all familiar with, maybe likely more than me. But what we found to be the strategy, you know, starting with an email. We've got some sample language in the toolkit, which we'll get to in a minute, which can easily send. It's got some resources, some links of things you can read to kind of read more about the issue of the carbon fee and dividend, the connection to the biking industry, and everything in between. And you can do that. You can email to them. Some bike shops, organizations, it's easier. They've got Facebook pages, through LinkedIn, kind of a lot of different avenues you can do to make that first contact. And then if that, you know, doesn't yield anything super productive, it's always good to follow that up with a call. In person is also helpful. I know some of the bike shops I've targeted don't have an online presence or anything like that, and are harder to reach. And so I know it's definitely a different and difficult time to do it, but if you can safely kind of go in person and kind of make that personal connection, that can be super valuable too, I think. And then just things to highlight when you're talking to someone. The impact of climate change to biking. This is something that, especially in some places, you know, with the wildfires at West, can really be felt them. But there's also some great articles that are in the toolkit. Some of my favorite, there's a Scorched Earth series from one of the mountain biking sites. That's kind of, I think it's a 7-part series with some really kind of good visual aids and good interviews they've done, as well as there's one that's really interesting, that's 7 rides that won't exist soon that they compiled. I thought that was a real way to kind of make it real, especially for cyclists and mountain bikers in particular. And then kind of highlight other industries or individuals who have endorsed this, who have supported it. I know it's a lot of bike shops are also ski shops, or kind of are more wide reaching than just bikes, and showing some of these ski endorsements, or other outdoor industry endorsements, I think can be really helpful to kind of show the movement that's there and kind of encourage them to join in. Perfect. And next slide if we could. Perfect. So once they're on board, obviously have them sign the declaration. That's really easy. We've got it linked in a bunch of different places. And that's just a Google form they can fill out. It takes not even a minute. Encourage them to leave a testimonial either with you or, even better, on the declaration in the section for that. That's great to kind of just encourage other shops to sign and have them, show why this is an important issue to them. You can also help them publicize their endorsement, whether that be through putting up signage in their shop, adding to their social media or other kind of channels, or writing press releases to their local paper. And then obviously contacting the representatives is another great way to kind of bring attention to the issue. And then finally, having them help you make other connections. The cycling community is often a very tight-knit community, so whether they can connect you to other bike shops in the area, connect you to kind of riding groups that are centered around the shop, or other events or organizations that they know of or could help you kind of connect with. That's a great and really easy way to kind of get more people on from one cold call. Yeah, and so next slide if we could.
All right. Thanks. Thanks, Luke. Am I unmuted?
You're good. I can hear you.
Thank you. So let me show you where this is. Kyle's asking some good questions, and just want to make sure that everything is clear in terms of where you get this and what are the resources in back end. So if you go to bclresources.org, it'll take you to this site, which has lots of good information. If you look under industry resources, and then if you go down, you'll see each of the kind of key sectors that we operate in, the outdoor industry here. And you'll see background on the outdoor industry. You'll have a link to the biking declaration, which actually resides on the Business Climate Leaders website. And if you look under Take Action on the Business Climate Leaders website, you'll see a list of all the different declarations that we're working with. Also on the resource site, as Luke was talking about, he created this great toolkit. It's a step-by-step approach in terms of helping you. It has links to where you can get the bike shops in your area, a link to the declaration. It has a link, I think, to the caucus in here as well. It was kind of news to me that there's actually about 130 members, I believe, of Congress are part of the biking caucus. And you have links to some of the articles he mentioned and a sample email. There's an email here that you can use to send out to bike shops or associations, or craft it kind of how you want. There's also a one-pager here on the business case for the EICDA, or business case for carbon pricing in the biking industry, looking at what are the impacts of climate change, and then how the EIA and carbon pricing will help mitigate that. And for me, it's clear, like there's a lot that business as usual in the biking industry is terrible for the biking industry. You're getting rid of nature, getting rid of places to ride. You're disrupting supply chains, et cetera. A solution to climate change, lowering emissions, lowering temperature, lowering extreme weather, et cetera, is only good for the biking industry. Yes, there may be a little increase in the cost of steel, but the overall bikes are sold at such a high value add that it actually is going to be a very little cost increase for bike manufacturers, and a huge gain in dealing with climate change. I don't know if I saw here in the toolkit, I didn't go down to the very bottom, but there's a little bit more background on it. And then here, in terms of a whole list of endorsements, from all the ski, we don't have very many. There are a few bikes shops, as Luke mentioned. There's a bike and ski shop here, but there's lots of all the ski endorsements that we have. There's the Trout Unlimited. There's the Audubon societies and chapters that are supported, as well as athletes. And hopefully we're going to add a whole nother page to this list with bike endorsers, bike manufacturers, bike shops, bike associations. So that's what we're working towards. So those resources are all there for you by linking from this page. So with that, would invite you to be part of our team, invite you to come to talk to your local bike shops and associations and support this and support getting the messaging out to other CCLers. So with that, we'll open it up for questions. Yeah, Carl.
This is great. Couple of sort of procedural things. How does this connect or relate to the endorsements that you would do if you just went to energyinnovationact.org and click support and all that, right? Because there's already a list of, in fact, I think that list you were flashing up must be from that database, right?
Yeah, those people are all endorsers that Bill and the outdoors team has gotten over the years. I think most of them are in GET, some of them are individuals. But how is it different? So the way the biking declaration, if you actually click through the biking declaration, the Google form, you are either signing the biking declaration, which says, I support action on climate, including Bill's carbon pricing, such as the Energy Innovation Act. So that's what you are doing as part of, a collective of people interested in people involved in the biking industry. And the form also offers you a chance, and I would like to endorse the EIA.
Oh, okay.
So you can either do one or both.
Okay. And then as long as I'm off mute, should we log the fact that we're pursuing a particular entity or whatever in the Grass Tops engagement tracker so we don't collide? Or
Yes, if you're approaching a bigger organization, for instance, Specialized Bikes, that would have kind of national impact that people might be pursuing. If you're pursuing your local bike shop in Palo Alto, I don't think it's necessary at this point to pop it in GET.
Okay, thanks.
And then once a company signs on to either the declaration and or the declaration and the EIA, that will go into GET. Kyle?
I'm just so impressed at all the resources you guys had there. I feel like I have a whole bunch of stuff to smack down on the desk of my local bike shop gently and over a few meetings. But I can find all of it at BCL Resources. Is that what it was?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is BCL a standalone website? Like, I won't find it on accident skimming through CCL. Like, I have to go to BCL separately? Or
Yeah, businessclimateleaders.org.
Okay.
Is our external facing website. We're an action team of CCL, just to be clear. So we are part of CCL, okay, but we have a separate external website to show to companies and show them our expertise in terms of getting companies to engage on climate. And then bclresources.org is just an internal for us CCL folks. It's not something we show to companies, but it has all the resources that you need to pursue the biking declaration or anything that can
it's
help
our
you.
Community page, right?
Our community page. Yeah.
Randy, this is Claudia. I've got a similar question to Carl's. I don't know the industry well, so are there certain national associations or national level manufacturers that the BCL team will focus on so that we at the chapter level should stay away from those bigger fish?
I would say, interestingly, we haven't even publicly put this out there, but Luke sent this, the biking declaration around to a couple shops in Maine. And all of a sudden we got an email from People for Bikes, which is the leading trade organization in DC for the biking industry. It's all the bike shops, it's all the manufacturers. And so they approached us and wanted to know, hey, what are you guys doing? So we're in discussion with them. So in terms of other organizations you may know, ask us. If you have a contact, obviously we'll work with you, or you can lead the way and we'll support you. If it's large, if you have a big bike manufacturer that's located in your area, Trek is located in Wisconsin, for instance. Let us know. We'd rather local people work on those with support from Bill, the outdoor organization, as well as from BCL.
Luke? I'll also add with the larger organization or companies or organizations that definitely check the Grass Tops engagement tracker to be sure that there isn't somebody already working on it.
Yeah.
And if there is, then maybe you can partner with them if that's an interest to you. And then going back to what Kyle said, you know, with the endorsements, you know, the outdoor industry endorsements, what we found really successful in the ski industry is being able to leverage the successes that have already happened with the endorsements we've already collected. And so there may be a way that you could finesse the outdoor industry endorsements more broadly to bring in bike industries and bike shops to want to join the declaration. But also our Matt Tucker in Truckee, he's gotten 3 endorsements just in Truckee itself with the bike shops there. So, you know, just as we continue to grow, I know that Randy's planning to put the bike shops that have endorsed the declaration onto that page as we grow in size. And that's also a really good way to make it more comfortable for bike shops and cycling businesses to feel more comfortable stepping out on this because they see that other people have done it before them.
Mm-hmm. So I want to wrap up here and then happy to stick around for more questions, but just a couple of things. So here's bclresources.org. If you're not already a member of the Outdoor Industry Action Team on CCL Community, go ahead and join up. And similarly for business climate leaders. And here again is our emails for Bill, Luke, and I. So don't hesitate to contact us with any questions that you have. So with that, we're done, but we'll keep it open for questions. Anything else that you guys have?
Bravo, guys. This is awesome.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
In Minnesota, REI is a big player in all kinds of outdoor sales. Has REI signed a declaration or endorsed the bill?
Yeah.
They have not. We've had some kind of intermittent discussions with them up in Seattle. You know, they're obviously supportive of Action on Climate and do lots of great stuff. But they haven't, at least at the point, they were not. I remember I was in on the call. They were not endorsing any specific policy. The same is true of people like Patagonia. You know, awesome company doing fantastic things. You know, supportive of what we do, but you know they just and they're behind carbon pricing, but not specifically around a specific bill. And I think the same is for Trek at this point. We haven't had discussions with Trek, but if you look at their website, they now have come out publicly, I think, endorsing carbon pricing. Bill, correct me if I'm wrong on that, but definitely endorsing Action on Climate.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they're on the carbon pricing yet, but they are definitely very supportive on climate.
And we're working our way in and trying to connect with them.
Yeah.
All right. And I just want to give another shout out to Luke. Luke has really kind of come in and just and really brought an incredible amount of energy and smarts and just good old get things done attitude to it. He's been a real fantastic addition, and I don't know how long he's going to continue on with us, but hopefully he'll carry on with CCL and definitely will carry on with his interest in environmental advocacy. So want everybody just to acknowledge him and the work he's done. And
thanks so much. Yeah.
All right. Anybody, any other questions?
We got a fast one, hopefully in a sentence or two. Could you elaborate more on how the supply chain is threatened to the biking industry by climate change?
For sure, I can speak to that. It's a super really complex supply chain where I think it was like 95% of bikes are imported to the U.S. And because it requires so much like complex manufacturing and kind of intercontinental transport, I guess, is the real reason that it can be disrupted so much.
You know, I just did a presentation a couple months ago for a group of sustainability professionals, corporate sustainability professionals, the group called Companies versus Climate Change. And my point was not to so much advocate, which we spend so much time doing, I do. And I sort of sat back and said, well, I'm just here to explain why all the experts in the IPCC stand behind pricing carbon, and then here's how you could get involved, and here's a bill. And I pointed to embodied carbon, and I gave a couple of examples. First, I talked about something that gets everybody's attention. I say, you know, fish caught off our shores that ends up in your grocery store goes to China to be deboned and filleted. People's eyes popped out like a stomped old bullfrog. Most people do. And I talked about Fiji water really comes from Fiji. Many people don't know that. And then I showed my Rocky Mountain bike. I said, oh, I love to say it's made in North America. Rocky Mountain, British Columbia. Let's take a closer look. Carbon frame, Taiwan, where most carbon frames come from. Shimano, the drivetrain and the brakes, I have to explain to them what that is. I say Malaysia, Singapore, and in China, not Japan, even though it's a Japanese company. And Maxis, I learned an hour before that, Maxis is from Taiwan. Rubber, probably sourced in Indonesia. Race Face is owned by Fox Factory, Taiwan. There's nothing in the bike that's from North America. And so embodied carbon, you know, and that's why regulations in Canada, or if it were the US, would not affect that in any way. We have to think about this globally. And anyway, I like showing my Rocky Mountain. I give all these bullet points of all the different parts and pieces, because I'm a gearhead, of where it comes from. And it ain't North America. So.
Thanks,
Now,
Greg.
Greg, a price on carbon would help with that.
Yeah.
It might.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, right on. And look forward to seeing you all on, you know, your name show up on and Get and stuff, and with some endorsers, and spread the word and spread the love. Appreciate everything you guys do. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.